Oh man. The I'm not sure if anybody done a live stream on YouTube, but it has you take a thumbnail right before you start live streaming, and I never know exactly what to do. So stupid thing. Okay, welcome to the MBLEx test prep live stream. I just did a video. I'm back. So the MBLEx test prep live stream, basically what I do is I give you the opportunity to ask questions about the MBLEx. And I will answer those questions. If you want to review any information, be it anatomy and physiology or pathology or kinesiology or massage therapy, business, anything like that, now's the time to do it. So all you have to do, go into the chat, send your question, we can chat it up, and hopefully we can help you out. So I know there are people. I got 3 people watching right now. I know that's an incredible amount. 3 people watching right now, so I know that you have to be preparing for the MBLEx. So what questions do you have in regards to the MBLEx that I can help you understand, that I can help you learn? We can work together and figure this stuff out. So if you got questions, if there's anything you're confused about, definitely hit that chat, send me your questions, and we'll talk about it. And we'll try to figure out a way for you to kind of learn that information. Now, while I'm waiting, I'm going to do a quick lesson. I got, hold on, an entire box of bones right here. Let's see, what do we want to go over? Which bones do we want to go over? I got the entire human skeleton in this box. It's not a real skeleton, but although you can buy those online, articulated skeletons, the kind that you see kind of standing up, like that one. That's a half-size skeleton that has the origins and insertions marked on it, on half of it. So pretty good deal. Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out where. There we go. Okay. So while I wait for questions to come in, let's go over a little bit of information. There's cat hair flying around. So this, what bone is this? What do you think? This is the scapula. Some people call it shoulder blade. I can't stand when people use those terms. Shoulder blade, collarbone, hip bone. Yeah, there's no hip bone. The hip is a joint. Thank you. Anyway, that's just me. So I'm looking for another bone here somewhere. No, I'm not sure where it is. Whatever. Okay, so scapula. This side versus this side. Is this the anterior side? Or is this the anterior side? What do you think? Which side is the anterior side? There's a really easy way to figure it out. All you have to look for is this right here. This tells you that this is the posterior side. You don't see this, you know it's the anterior side. So if you were to be able to view my scapula, or actually goes, it's this one. It's, even though the scapula is on the back, this is the front of the scapula, so this is the anterior side of the scapula. So we'll talk about some bony landmarks that you find on the scapula. Okay, so let's start. We'll start on the anterior side. We'll start with this thing right here. This big thing right here. Any idea what that is? Right there. What do you think? So this is named after what it looks like. Ends with the suffix oid. Oid means resembling. So what does it look like? If I were that doesn't work. It's better if I can draw it, but Whatever, you get the idea. This looks like a bird's beak, right? Specifically, one kind of bird. This looks like a crow's beak, and that's what it's named after. Starts with a C. This is the coracoid process. Okay, the coracoid process is on the anterior portion of the scapula. Okay, so we've got 3 muscles that attach to the coracoid process. Now, I'm not going to go super in depth on origins versus insertion. Okay, so we'll just say if a muscle inserts onto a bone, it's going to move that bone in some way. If a muscle originates on a bone, it doesn't move that bone. Again, I do have a podcast, the MBLEx Test Prep Podcast. Definitely check that out. I have an entire episode where I talk about that stuff. So we have 3 muscles that attach to the coracoid process. 2 originate, 1 inserts. So what do you think? Can you think of the muscles that attach to the coracoid process? Now we'll do the ones that originate first. It would be easier if you could actually see it. I know I don't have. I mean, I have the muscles, of course, but I don't have the detachable muscles. So one muscle that originates here. So a fun thing that muscles, the names of muscles. Some muscles are named after where they specifically attach. Okay, so one muscle is specifically named after the coracoid process. And that should be pretty easy to figure out what muscle is named after the coracoid process. It is coracobrachialis. Okay, so coracobrachialis originates on the coracoid process and it comes down and inserts onto the medial proximal shaft of the humerus. Okay, so coracoid process originates on the coracoid process, or coracobrachialis, excuse me, originates on the coracoid process. So we have another muscle that originates on the coracoid process. This muscle has 2 heads. We have a couple muscles in the body that have 2 heads. This muscle, and you're thinking about the scapula. The scapula's up here, right? Right there. So what do you think? What muscle might be originating there that has 2 heads? Now, if you were to say the biceps brachii, you'd be correct. But not both heads originate there. Only one of the heads originate on the coracoid process. So which head of the biceps brachii originates on the coracoid process? We got 2 heads, right? We have a short head and a long head. Which one originate there? The answer is the short head. Okay, so here's why. Okay, I have the opposite humor. Just play along, okay? So we got the, you know what? You can't play along. I actually have to have the correct humerus. Let's see. It's in here somewhere. It's supposed to be in here somewhere. There it is. All the way at the bottom of the box. Okay, now we can figure it out. Cat hair, so much cat hair. Okay, so there's a specific reason I needed this one. Okay, so we're on the anterior side, right? So the short head of the biceps is going to go from here all the way down here across the elbow onto the radius. Okay, the long head, however, is the tendon that connects the long head to the scapula is longer than, cat's driving me nuts. It's longer than the tendon of the short head. Okay, so it takes a longer route. So the origin of the long head is right up here, this little notch right here. You can barely see. It's there though. It's called the supraglenoid tubercle. So here's the glenoid fossa, and it is right above the glenoid fossa is a tubercle. Tubercle is kind of the bony thing that kind of sticks out. So the long head originates there, but it has to wrap all the way around the head of the humerus. Like, get this, just hold it. There we go. So it goes from there and then wraps all the way around the head of the humerus and goes into this little groove right here called the intertubercular or bicipital groove right there. Okay, so then that would join with the short head of the biceps right here, and that would make the biceps brachii. Then they both cross the elbow and insert onto the radial tuberosity. Okay, so the short head of the biceps brachii also originates here. Okay, so the biceps and the coracobrachialis originate on the scapula, and that means that they do not move the scapula, right? But we do have one muscle that inserts onto the coracoid process, and this muscle will move the scapula. And it's kind of an issue if this muscle is too tight, because it can mess with your posture quite a bit and cause you a lot of back pain, maybe some breathing problems if it's bad enough. So what muscle would insert here? And this is a muscle on the front of the body. This muscle's actions, basically all it does is protract the scapula. It brings it forward like this. So forward, like protract or abduct the scapula. So the vertebrae, if we're looking like that, the vertebrae is the midline, right? So you're taking it away from the midline. So that's abduction. So protraction of the scapula is the same thing as abduction of the scapula. Okay, so this muscle originates on ribs 3, 4, and 5. Excuse me. I used to work at a for a minor league baseball club a long time ago, like 10 years ago. We had a trainer who, for some reason, tried telling me that that this muscle originates on ribs. What was it? 1, 2, and 3 instead of 3, 4, and 5. He's like, yeah, if you look at a cadaver, you can see that that's where it starts. I'm like, dude, I've looked at many cadavers, and not a single one is that this muscle originating on ribs 1, 2, and 3. So I think he was a little confused. Anyway, so ribs 3, 4, and 5. 3, 4, and 5. So it starts about here and then comes up to here at the coracoid process. Yeah, mine is right there. So what muscle is going to do that? So it's a muscle in the chest, right? Muscle in the chest. What do you think? Now it's not all the way over here, right? It's not like that. It's going to be underneath that muscle. So muscle of the chest, smaller of the two, underneath the bigger muscle. It is pectoralis minor. Okay, so pec minor, again, originates on ribs 3, 4, and 5, and then comes up and inserts onto the coracoid process. And when that contracts, it's going to bring the scapulas into abduction or protraction. Okay, so that can cause stuff like kyphosis, where you're rounding the back. I try to keep my shoulders back a little bit, just to kind of avoid that scenario. I'd rather not experience that. So those are the 3 muscles that attach to the coracoid process. So I hope that was a little helpful. Hopefully helpful. So the 2 muscles that originate on the coracoid process, coracobrachialis, and that's easy. Short head of the biceps brachii, okay, and the one muscle that inserts onto that, pectoralis minor. So again, coracobrachialis and biceps brachii, because they originate on the scapula, they don't do anything to the scapula. They don't move the scapula in any way. Pectoralis minor, however, inserts onto the scapula, so it does move the scapula. If a muscle inserts onto a bone, it's going to move the bone in some way, okay? So when a muscle contracts, it's going to bring the insertion towards the origin, and that's why when pectoralis minor contracts, it pulls the scapula like this, like this, just like that. So I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense. I haven't had a single comment. nobody's chatting. So hopefully you guys learned something. I wish. See, this is the problem. This is why I miss actually teaching all the time in front of a class, because I can actually communicate with people. So somebody please say something. Let me know that it makes sense. Just so I know, just so I have that peace of mind. Otherwise, I'm going to be wondering, did Do they understand? I hope they understand. I know you understand. You don't have to humor me by chatting with me on my live stream or anything like that. I don't know. What do you think? You want to do one more? Should we do one more? If I don't get a response in my chat for one more, yeah, I'll probably still do it. But come on, just talk to me. Talk to me, please. Okay, we'll do one more. All right, so let's move on to the posterior side, right? So, it's the posterior side because of this, the spine of the scapula. We're not going to talk about the spine of the scapula today. We're going to talk about this thing right here. This big point right here. What do you think? The clavicle articulates with this. A fun story about the clavicle. So pretend my finger is the clavicle. It connects like that. Like that. So a fun story about the clavicle. My son actually broke his clavicle a couple days ago. So please buy my study guide to help with that. He doesn't need surgery, but it's a pain. Like literally and figuratively. Anyway, so the clavicle, that's the end, the sternal end, or the that's not the sternal end. Sternal end's over here. This end, which I'm trying to get you to tell me what this end is. That's where he broke his clavicle, and I've got X-rays, fun X-rays. So I can pull this up. I can pull up an X-ray for you while I got the time. Well, let me find it. People, whenever I'm at a doctor and we get X-rays done or anything like that, because this is the second medical thing that my son has had. He had a trigger thumb a couple years ago or last year, where his thumb was just kind of stuck like that. So they had to do surgery. I know I'm going off on tangents here. So there's like a little band of tissue right in here, right underneath the skin, that holds all the tendons that go down into the thumb in place. So if one of those tendons becomes inflamed below that little band of tissue, then the thumb can't properly extend because that inflamed part of the tendon gets stuck. And that's called a trigger thumb, where it's just like that. So his other thumb was just fine, but hold on, let me alternate. There you go. His left thumb was stuck like this. His right thumb was fine. So we had to have surgery. Basically, they just cut the little band of tissue, and that frees everything up so he can double thumbs up. No, double thumbs up. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to get you an X-ray. Hold on. There it is. Let's see. Hopefully you can see this. There you go. Yeah, that's his broken clavicle right there. Fun stuff. Fun stuff. So his arm's in a sling. He's fine. He's fine. No surgery. He's young enough. He doesn't need surgery. That's fine. Anyway, so that end of the clavicle is what articulates with this, and there's a long roundabout way of getting to this. So what is this thing called? Anybody? This is the acromion process. Now the word root acro means extremity, so just think that's where it's right here. Okay, so that's where the extremity connects to the body. Okay, acromion process. So let's see. There are going to be two muscles I want you to know that attach to the acromion process. One of them originates and one of them inserts. Okay, we'll do the one that originates there first. Okay, so again, the scapula would be right here. So just think the acromion process right here. You got to think of muscles that are in that area. Now, if muscles attach to limbs, then the origin is always going to be more proximal than the insertion, because it's going to want to move a part of the body that's further down, okay? So this muscle, geez, where am I? Okay, right there. Yes, right there. It's backwards. Like this poster, it says Texas Twister. I don't know if you can read that, Texas Twister, but I'm looking at the screen. It's flipped around. Sorry, I'm confused. So Just think of it like that. So what muscles are going to be in that area? Think of muscles in that area that are going to start there that will move distally down onto the limb. So what do you think? Well, I don't know. What muscles are right there? Okay, I'll give you a hint. Muscle I'm looking for abducts the shoulder. Abduction of the shoulder. Abduction of the shoulder. What do you think? If he said deltoid, you are correct. However, there are 3 parts of the deltoid and only one originates right there in the acromion process. So what do you think? Is it the anterior deltoid? Is it the middle deltoid? Or is it the posterior deltoid? Anterior, middle, posterior. Posterior deltoid originates right here on the spine of the scapula. So that's it. I mean, that's not it. So just forget about that one. The anterior deltoid. See if I had my. I bet. No, those are all ribbed. Like I said, I got my box of bones and they're not organized. Wait. I found my clavicles. They're in a bag. Clavicles in a bag. There we go. Okay. Not cooperating. Okay, so the anterior deltoid originates over here on the clavicle. Might be easier if I get the other skeleton. Whatever. Anterior deltoid originates on the lateral third of the clavicle, near the acromial end of the clavicle. So that one is not going to be it. So the answer is the middle deltoid. Middle deltoid originates on the acromion process. Kind of think it's like right there. It's not on the front. It's not on the back. It's right in the middle. So middle deltoid originates there, and again, it abducts the shoulder. So the deltoids all together will also do things like flex the shoulder, extend the shoulder, medially and laterally rotate the shoulder, but middle deltoid by itself just abducts the shoulder. Okay. So then we have a muscle that inserts onto the acromion process. Inserts onto the acromion process. Okay, so this muscle, again, if a muscle inserts onto a bone, it moves the bone in some way. Okay, so this muscle has 3 parts. I can't really tell you what the parts are because that kind of gives it away. I can tell you the actions though. This muscle elevates the scapula, retracts it. Hold on. Here, let's get it aligned to where it actually is. Elevates the scapula, retracts the scapula, and depresses the scapula. So it's an antagonist to itself. That's weird. There are a few muscles that are antagonists to themselves, and this is one of them. What do you think? What muscle is going to elevate, retract, and depress the scapula? And it has 3 parts. And each one of those parts does one of those actions. This muscle originates on the external occipital protuberance. Channeling my inner gorilla monsoon. Nobody understands that reference. Don't worry about it. And the superior nuchal line. Where else? The spinous processes of T1 through T12. What do you think? The muscle is going to elevate, retract, depress the scapula. That inserts or originates right back here and all the way down the spinous processes of the vertebrae in the thoracic region. The muscle that inserts onto the acromion process is the trapezius. Okay, so when that contracts, just think the trapezius is kind of shaped like this, where the very top would be right up here where it originates. Okay, so when it contracts, it pulls the scapula up, and then those are the upper fibers of the trapezius. The middle fibers insert kind of right down. Of course, I can see it. You can't see it. originate, or I'm all over the place. Inserts right over here, kind of under the spine of the scapula. So when that contracts, it's going to pull the scapula in towards the vertebrae. And the lower fibers also insert right here on the spine of the scapula. So when they contract, they pull the scapula down into depression. So elevation, retraction, and depression of the scapula, all actions of the trapezius. Okay, so those are a couple of the bony landmarks of the scapula. I hope that made sense. I think it did, and it makes sense to me. Not the first time I've gone over it, though. Won't be the last. So hopefully that made sense. And now is the time for any questions that you have. Send them my way in the chat. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk for the next couple minutes about my awesome study guide that I have available. Right now, you can buy this on eBay for $29.99. And I just posted a video. If you buy this, for every 10 copies of this book that are sold on eBay, I will randomly draw one name, and that person will get their copy for free. It's just that easy. It's just that easy. So head over to eBay, search for the MBLEx Test Prep Complete Study Guide for MBLEx 2019 edition, $29.99. Doesn't get much better than that. And look at all this fun stuff that I've got. And we just went over a little bit of kinesiology, bony landmarks, and you got pictures of people actually doing these actions. Like, look, elevation, retraction, depression of the scapula, all done by the trapezius, of course. They got pathology. Like, look at this decubitus ulcer. Oh, I wish my book was in color. This picture is amazing in color. Lots of greens and grays, and that's a good photo. I like it. You can't find this stuff anywhere else. So make sure you pick up my guide, $29.99 on ebay.com. Make sure you're buying it from the seller, MBLEx Test Prep. That's me, this guy. And you will get your very own copy. And if you want it signed or anything, just send me a message after you buy it before I ship it out. I'm usually pretty quick with that stuff. So just be quicker than me, I suppose. So nobody's asked me any questions. Nobody's got anything they want to say. Nothing. Okay. If that's how you want to roll, fine. I can see I'm not wanted. Okay. I do have to head out before the children get back. They can be kind of noisy, especially the one that broke his clavicle. Of course. Whatever. Okay. So I'm out. Until next time, head to eBay. Buy a copy of my book. You could get yours for free. Here's hoping. All right. And until next time, this is David. Adios.